how she starts missing the man she took for granted. Stoicism, modern stoic. The saddest thing about love is that not only that it cannot last forever, but that heartbreak is soon forgotten. Zrenia William Faulkner. She always thought you'd be there, day in, day out, always answering, always showing up, always caring. No matter how little she gave back, you stayed consistent, loyal, solid. And somewhere along the way, she stopped noticing, took you for granted. But here's the hard truth most don't see. When a man gives quietly, he also leaves quietly. No fights, no warnings, just a shift. And then, he's gone. That's when it hits her. The late-night doubts, the sudden flashbacks, the sharp realization that the man she ignored isn't the same anymore. He didn't just walk away, he grew beyond her. A man done being taken for granted doesn't make a scene. He stops explaining, stops proving. He steps back, not to punish, but to protect his peace. And that silence, it cuts deeper than words ever could. In this video, we'll dive into what really happens when you stop showing up for someone who never saw your worth, why your absence starts to echo louder than your presence ever did, and how, slow but sure, she begins to miss the man she thought would never leave. If you've ever felt invisible, unappreciated, or worn thin, this one's for you. Number 1. The silence of unanswered questions. In the quiet moments of life, where unanswered questions linger, there often arises a sense of unspoken tension. It's a tension that exists in relationships, particularly in those between men and women. Men often find themselves reflecting on past relationships or encounters where something meaningful was left unsaid. This silence can be deafening, and while it may seem like an absence, it speaks volumes. The silence of unanswered questions is not just a lack of response, but an echo of deeper complexities. It's a poignant reminder that communication, both spoken and unspoken, holds immense power, and when it's neglected, it can create a void. This void can lead to feelings of neglect, regret, and longing, especially when those we once took for granted begin to reflect on their own feelings. As the saying goes, you don't know what you've got until it's gone. But it's not just the absence of someone that leaves us wondering. It's the silence of what we didn't hear, the things that were left unsaid, that can sometimes hurt more than any words. When a woman starts to miss the man she once took for granted, it's often not the absence of his physical presence she feels, but the silence that emerges. This is the silence of emotional distance, of moments that were once shared and now seem lost in time. Modern Stoicism teaches us to embrace control over our emotions and reactions, to recognize that the external world will constantly shift, and to find peace within ourselves, regardless of these changes. The Stoics understood that people and relationships are impermanent, and that much of our suffering comes from trying to hold on to what we cannot keep. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." This line reminds us that it's not the absence of someone that causes us pain, but our perception of that absence. The silence may seem unbearable, but in reality, it is simply a reflection of our own emotional turbulence. When we talk about being a modern Stoic, we often refer to the ability to weather these emotional storms with resilience. Stoicism doesn't teach us to avoid our feelings, but rather to understand and manage them. As men, we can learn from this philosophy by recognizing that when a woman starts missing us after taking us for granted, it's an opportunity to reflect on how we've managed the emotional balance of the relationship. Did we allow ourselves to become passive? Did we fail to communicate our feelings, leaving gaps that later turned into silences? These are the questions that arise when the once harmonious connection begins to falter. But instead of diving into regret, modern Stoicism suggests that we focus on what we can control, our own emotional responses, our actions, and our growth. Real life offers a multitude of examples where men have found themselves in this situation. Think of the long-term marriage where a man becomes complacent, assuming that his partner will always be there, never questioning the unspoken routine that has built over the years. The wife, in turn, begins to feel neglected, not because he doesn't love her, but because she no longer feels seen or heard. This is where the silence creeps in. The unanswered questions build up over time. Does he still care? Does he notice me? Is he taking me for granted? In these moments, it's important for men to step back and ask themselves, am I present in this relationship? Am I showing her that I value her, not just in words, but in actions? The answer might not always be easy to face, but it's through this self-awareness that the silence can be broken. As Stoics, we must realize that everything in life is fleeting, including relationships. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, famously said, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight. We cannot hold on to anything forever, and the key is not to cling to the past, but to be fully present in the now." If we want to prevent the silence of unanswered questions from overwhelming us, we must learn to engage with those around us, particularly the ones we love. Being present, expressing appreciation, and acknowledging their feelings are actions that not only enrich the relationship, but also prevent the emotional void from widening. The silence of unanswered questions often reflects our own inner turmoil, a discomfort with facing the truth. But by embracing Stoic principles and focusing on what we can control, we are able to transform that silence into an opportunity for growth and understanding. Men, in particular, can benefit from this philosophy by being proactive in their relationships, listening, and understanding the emotional landscape of their partners. As the great Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When we embrace this mindset, we learn not to fear silence, but to understand its message. In the end, the silence that comes with unanswered questions is not something to fear, but an invitation to reflect, communicate, and grow. If you've ever found yourself in a place where the questions linger, the answers seem distant, or the emotional connection feels strained, take a step back. Reflect on how you've been managing the relationship and what you can do to improve it. Embrace the silence, but don't let it define you. Take action, communicate, and most importantly, be present. How have you handled moments of silence in your own life? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's engage in a conversation about the challenges and lessons that come with navigating relationships, emotional distance, and the power of silence. Comment below with "Embrace the silence, transform the silence." Number 2. When the familiar becomes distant. When something once familiar begins to feel distant, it sets the stage for a profound transformation, especially in relationships where one partner has quietly been taken for granted. She assumes you are still within reach, orbiting her world, ready to offer a comforting word or validation whenever she desires. There's an unspoken confidence in her mind that you will always be there, a constant presence in the background, like a lighthouse steadfast on the shore. But time, as it inevitably does, reveals truths that were once hidden beneath the surface. The daily good morning texts that once sparked a smile no longer arrive. The random check-ins, the spontaneous phone calls just to hear her voice, become a rarity or vanish entirely. This fading presence is not the product of anger or bitterness. It is quiet, measured, and powerful in its stillness. At first, she might convince herself that your silence is meaningless, pretending that it doesn't touch her. But deep down, a subtle shift occurs. Uncertainty creeps in, and for the first time she begins to question if you are still there at all. This is the embodiment of modern Stoicism, not the cold detachment many misunderstand, but a deliberate withdrawal born from a place of inner peace and clarity. A Stoic man doesn't disappear to create drama or wield silence as a weapon. Instead, he steps back to realign with his own values, to nurture his growth, and to reclaim his emotional equilibrium. This retreat is a powerful act of self-honor, a refusal to chase after external validation or expend energy on those who fail to recognize his worth. When you redirect your energy inward, the presence you hold becomes even stronger than if you were constantly by her side. Your silence isn't empty. It's a presence that lingers, calm and commanding. Slowly, she begins to notice the change. It might be the way laughter feels lighter in your absence, The quiet moments when your name unexpectedly pops up in an old playlist, or the fleeting thought wondering if you would still answer if she called. These realizations are subtle, almost invisible at first, but they accumulate until your absence becomes louder than any words you ever spoke. This is the paradox of human connection. When you were always there, your presence became background noise, easy to overlook or dismiss. But when you step away with purpose and conviction, you illuminate everything that was once taken for granted, exposing the depth of what she lost in your silence. For men between the ages of 35 and 70, who may have spent years navigating the complexities of relationships, career, family, and personal growth, this is a crucial lesson to understand. In a world that demands constant availability and immediate responses, choosing to honor your own peace and boundaries can feel revolutionary. The Stoic approach teaches that strength doesn't lie in relentless pursuit or emotional turbulence, but in calm, centered presence and self-respect. Your silence, then, is not absence but a statement. It declares that your value does not depend on constant affirmation from others, but is rooted in your own integrity and growth. Moreover, this principle extends beyond romantic relationships. It applies to friendships, work dynamics, and how you engage with the world. When you stop chasing external validation and focus instead on your own path, you build resilience and clarity. You become a man who leads by example, not through words or dramatic gestures, but through the quiet power of living authentically. This presence, forged in stillness and self-awareness, commands respect naturally and invites others to reconsider the way they perceive and value you. If you are watching this and wondering whether your silence matters, it does more than you realize. A man who honors his peace and walks away not out of spite, but to live truthfully, will always be missed by those who once overlooked his presence. This is not about teaching a lesson or playing games. It is about embodying a way of life that prioritizes self-respect and emotional clarity above all else. In choosing to step back, you aren't losing power, you are reclaiming it. And in doing so, you create a space where genuine appreciation and connection can eventually grow, or where you can thrive independently, fully aligned with your values. Ultimately, the quiet power of walking away reveals the essence of modern Stoicism. It's not about withdrawing to punish, but about stepping into your own light, standing firm in your worth, and allowing others to see what was there all along. This is the strength that transcends presence, the strength that transforms absence into something meaningful, and the strength that ensures you will never be forgotten, not because you shouted the loudest, but because you chose to honor yourself first. Comment to remember: quiet strength speaks loudest. Number 3. The power of a calm goodbye. The power of a calm goodbye is the ultimate demonstration of true strength. No slammed doors, no desperate pleas, no frantic attempts to grab her attention. You didn't raise your voice or lose your composure. Instead, you stepped back with quiet dignity, unwavering calm that unsettles her more than any outburst ever could. This is the moment she begins to miss you. She expected chaos, drama, a storm of emotions, because that's the script most men follow when they feel rejected or taken for granted. But you rewrote the story. You didn't chase her. You didn't beg for respect, effort, or consistency, things she should have freely given from the start. You withdrew because you understood something far more valuable. Peace is worth more than temporary attention, more than the noise of empty promises. When you leave calmly, you create a void that screams louder than words ever could. At first, she may feel relief, believing you'll come back like before, but days pass, then weeks, and your silence grows louder in her mind. Doubt creeps in, regret follows, curiosity takes hold. How can he be so calm? Why hasn't he reached out? That's when the missing begins, the real missing, the kind born from respect and lost opportunity, not desperation or need. You see, she's used to men who react, who plead, who make noise. She's never met a man who reflects, who controls his emotions with the discipline of a true Stoic. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. You embody that power. Your stillness unsettles her because it signals that you were never emotionally dependent. You were grounded, aware, self-respecting. You chose yourself over the chaos of chasing validation. This is the paradox of presence. It is most deeply felt only once it is gone. People often fail to appreciate what they have until it disappears. The quiet exit, the calm goodbye, is the moment she realizes the depth of what she lost. Not because you forced her to see it, but because you refused to fight for what she neglected to give freely. Your silence is a mirror reflecting her own mistakes, her own failures to value you. This is not weakness. It is victory. It is power. The man who walks away without begging for closure or applause owns his life. He commands respect by showing restraint. The world is full of men who shout and plead. Be the man who speaks through silence. That is the art of a calm goodbye, and it is a weapon sharper than any words. If you're watching this now and you wonder if your quiet departure made a difference, hear this. It did, because a man who can walk away with his head held high is the man she replays in her mind long after the noise dies down. You have demonstrated mastery over your emotions, control over your destiny. Now, let that power fuel your life moving forward. Stand tall, speak softly with strength, command your peace, and never settle for less than you deserve. Share your experience. Have you ever had your silence speak louder than words? Comment "calm is power" below, and let's build a brotherhood of men who live by this truth. Like, comment, subscribe, because mastering this is mastering life. Own your calm, own your goodbye, own your power. Number 4, the weight of missed moments. Emotional absence often strikes with a depth that no outward expression of anger or frustration could ever reach. It's the kind of absence that leaves a lingering ache, one that's much harder to fill. You were once her steady calm in the storm, the quiet strength she relied on in moments of uncertainty, the emotional safety net she didn't even realize she was depending on. But when you made the choice to detach, not out of anger, but silently, with purpose, the space you left behind was filled not with relief, but with something far heavier: emptiness. This sudden shift wasn't something she anticipated. At first, it might have felt like freedom to her. The space, the newfound independence, the attention she got from others, it felt like a breath of fresh air, an opportunity to experience life on her terms without the weight of your presence. But as the days passed, that sense of liberation began to fade, and the silence that once seemed so inviting grew louder and more oppressive. She began to notice something unsettling. Her mood wasn't quite the same without your steady, grounding presence. The man she used to turn to during moments of anxiety, the one who could calm her worries with a look or a word, was no longer there. And it wasn't that you were trying to punish her, nor were you seeking revenge for any perceived wrongs. No, your silence wasn't born of bitterness. It was a conscious decision to protect your peace. This is the essence of Stoicism, not tying your emotional well-being to things outside your control, including the way others treat you. You didn't beg her to stay. You didn't try to justify yourself or explain your worth, because you understood that your value wasn't something that needed to be proven or defended. You simply chose to step back, to allow your actions and your absence to speak for themselves. And it was that silence, that absence, which began to resonate within her. It wasn't just the missed texts, the dates, or the conversations. It was something far deeper and more profound. It was the emotional space you used to fill, the subtle way you made her feel safe, seen, and steady. When a woman has experienced true emotional safety with a man, a constant, unwavering, and unshakable presence, she doesn't easily forget it. Especially not when that safety disappears without fanfare or drama. The absence isn't just an absence of presence, it's an absence of the emotional stability she once took for granted. Now, she finds herself scrolling through her phone, realizing that your name doesn't light up the screen as it once did. She might reach out to others, hoping to find someone who brings that same level of comfort and understanding, but no one quite carries the same energy. They talk, sure. They show up, perhaps, but none of them understand her in the way you did. None of them make her feel like you did. And this, my friend, is when the missing begins. Not because she misses the idea of you, but because she misses the version of herself that only existed when she was around your calm, that grounded presence, that unwavering emotional steadiness. It was in your silence that she learned what true peace feels like, and now she finds herself longing for it. As for you, you've grown more rooted in your own silence. The Stoic man understands that detachment is not about bitterness or frustration, it's about clarity. He understands that peace is not something to be handed out freely to the chaos of the world around him. It's something earned, something protected at all costs. When you detached, you didn't do so out of resentment, but out of a quiet strength that comes from within. You know that emotional peace cannot be given away to someone who doesn't value it, nor can it be sustained in the presence of emotional turmoil. If this message resonates with you, take a moment to reflect on your own life. Have you become the kind of man whose emotional absence speaks louder than any words you could say? Do you now understand the power of your silence, the depth of your presence or absence, and how it affects those around you? Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how emotional presence and absence can shape relationships and lives. Comment to remember: strength is in peaceful, purposeful absence. Number 5. Growth through reflection. In the quiet aftermath of loss, when the distractions of everyday life subside and she is left alone with her thoughts, a profound clarity begins to emerge. She doesn't just see what she lost, the man who stood quietly by her side, whose presence she perhaps never fully appreciated, but also begins to understand how this experience offers her a path to growth. It is in this stillness, in this moment of reflection, that she starts to grasp the essence of Stoicism, the art of embracing reality as it is, without resistance, and learning to value presence without the chains of attachment. Often, in modern life, we rush through relationships distracted by careers, technology, and the endless noise of our environment, unintentionally taking for granted those who consistently support us. This realization hits her not as a moment of despair, but as an invitation to cultivate a new kind of strength, one rooted not in control over others or circumstances, but in mastery over her own thoughts and responses. Stoicism teaches that while we cannot control external events, we can control how we perceive and react to them. This distinction is crucial in transforming pain into wisdom. When she reflects on the relationship, she sees clearly that her suffering comes not from the absence itself, but from the attachment she had formed, an attachment to permanence in a world defined by change. She begins to appreciate that clinging to what is lost only prolongs suffering, while acceptance leads to peace and resilience. This is not passive resignation, but active engagement with reality, a choice to meet life's challenges with calm and rationality. In doing so, she honors what was shared without being imprisoned by longing or regret. This balanced perspective allows her to grow emotionally and spiritually, gaining a deeper understanding of herself and the nature of human connection. For men between the ages of 35 and 70, this lesson resonates profoundly. It's an age when many are juggling complex roles: partner, father, professional, and individual, and the risk of taking relationships for granted is high. The modern world's pace, with its demands and distractions, often blinds us to the subtle, consistent presence of those who matter most. But embracing Stoicism invites a radical shift, to slow down, to reflect deeply, and to practice gratitude for the present moment and the people in it. It encourages a focus on internal growth over external validation, teaching that true strength lies in emotional resilience, self-awareness, and the capacity to accept life's impermanence with dignity. This journey through reflection and acceptance also underscores a timeless truth, that growth often emerges from pain. Rather than avoiding the discomfort of loss or blaming others, the Stoic path calls for facing reality head-on, learning from it, and moving forward with greater wisdom. It's a reminder that every ending contains the seeds of a new beginning, that the loss of what once was can open space for what can become. In practical terms, this means embracing daily practices such as mindfulness, journaling, or simply quiet contemplation to foster this inner transformation. By doing so, men can become more present and attentive partners, not because they feel pressured to change, but because they have cultivated a genuine appreciation for the fragile, fleeting nature of life and love. Ultimately, this story of growth through reflection is not just about how she learns to miss the man she once overlooked. It's a call for all men to embody the principles of modern Stoicism in their relationships and lives, to be the kind of man who understands that presence is a gift, that emotional strength comes from acceptance, and that love is most deeply felt when freed from the chains of expectation and attachment. By embracing this mindset, you not only heal from past losses, but also build a foundation for richer, more meaningful connections going forward. In a world that often feels chaotic and uncertain, adopting Stoic acceptance is a powerful way to reclaim control over your emotional landscape, enabling you to live fully, love deeply, and grow continuously. Number 6. Nostalgia wakes her up. Nostalgia hits her like a wave crashing against the shore, unexpected, relentless, unavoidable. One familiar song plays, a random photo appears, your name slips into a conversation, and suddenly she's pulled back into a moment she thought was long gone. She remembers the way you laughed, a laugh that felt like safety, the way you listened, truly listened, as if her words were the only thing that mattered in a world spinning out of control, the way you made her feel anchored, stable, unshakable. But now, that feeling belongs to the past, locked away where she never thought it would haunt her again. She didn't expect this. She thought she had moved on, that the man she once took for granted was just a shadow in her rearview mirror, a distant echo she could ignore. She believed you'd linger, always somehow present, available, affected by her life, even at a distance. But now, she's forced to face the silence. You, silent, unmoved, unreachable. And that silence isn't just an absence, it's a presence, powerful and deliberate. It holds a stoic strength, calm, firm, unyielding. Not the desperate silence of anger or spite, but the quiet fortress of a man who values his peace above all else. You didn't disappear to punish her. You stepped away because you chose your own peace over being misunderstood by someone who never truly saw the man you are. You see, men like you aren't unforgettable because of grand gestures or loud declarations. You're unforgettable because of what you gave without ever having to perform. Stability in uncertainty, presence without noise, strength without ego. You listened without interrupting. You showed up without needing praise. You stayed calm in conflict, speaking with intention, not impulse. That kind of man doesn't vanish from memory. He lingers in the quiet corners of the heart, the places words never reach. Now, when she hears that song or glimpses something that reminds her of you, it's not just nostalgia, it's a realization. The revelation that you were the calm in her storm, the quiet strength she never recognized until it slipped away. Nostalgia becomes her teacher, whispering what her pride once ignored. It reveals what was steady, rare, and real. But you've already moved on, not with bitterness, not with anger, but with peace. Because the Stoic man does not cling to what is lost. He acknowledges, learns, and advances. Your silence speaks, not as revenge, but as a boundary, a reflection of inner stillness, a signal that your peace is non-negotiable. As Marcus Aurelius said, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. You've made that your truth. She feels it now, the echo of a man who no longer waits to be remembered, who no longer needs validation from the past. This is mastery. This is power. To the men listening, hear this. Be the man who commands respect without demanding it. Be the man who holds peace above all else. Be the man whose calm presence turns chaos into order, whose silence is louder than noise, whose strength is quiet but unbreakable. She might be missing you now because she's awakening to what she lost. But you're already beyond that chapter, beyond regret, beyond distraction. You own your peace. You command your destiny. This is your moment to seize control of your life. Don't let it slip away. Like, comment, subscribe, and share this. What will you never surrender again in the pursuit of peace? Stand firm. Be unshakable. Live like the Stoic warrior you are. Number 7. Quiet leaves the deepest mark. When you walk away quietly, without fighting or reacting, it often leaves the deepest, most lasting impact, an impression that words can't even begin to capture. She might have expected you to chase after her, question her decision, or try to hold on to the connection, maybe even to beg for answers or closure. But you didn't. You simply let her go, with no resistance, no effort to stop the inevitable. That silence, so many would mistake it for weakness or indifference, was in fact a powerful expression of strength. It wasn't a surrender. It was a statement. Your peace, your sense of self-worth, wasn't up for negotiation, and you weren't willing to compromise it in order to keep her around. You didn't need to make a scene or engage in emotional battles. You let her walk away, leaving behind something far more potent than noise, your absence wrapped in dignity and quiet confidence. In the moments immediately following, she may have told herself that she was in control. She might have convinced herself that your calm, composed silence was a sign that you simply didn't care, that you were indifferent to her departure. But as time passes, the illusion starts to crack. Days turn into weeks, and suddenly she begins to feel the weight of your absence. It doesn't happen all at once, but slowly, steadily, she begins to realize that your silence is louder than anything you could have said. There are no frantic texts, no emotional outbursts, no attempts to explain yourself or fix things. It's just quiet, a stillness that seems to reverberate in the spaces she once filled with doubt and uncertainty. That quiet becomes the soundtrack to her thoughts, a reminder of the man who used to fight for the connection, the man who always showed up, who always tried, who always wanted to make things right. But now she is confronted with something much more profound, a man who has evolved, who no longer chases or pleads for attention. This is where the truth of Stoicism cuts to the heart of the matter. Real strength is not in trying to fight for someone's understanding or desperately seeking validation. It's in knowing your own worth, in understanding that your energy and your peace are sacred. True strength lies in the ability to walk away when you realize that your value is no longer being recognized, when you realize that no amount of pleading or trying to fix things will change the dynamics. Epictetus, the ancient Stoic philosopher, said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." In choosing to remain silent, in choosing not to react, you made a statement that was far more powerful than any words you could have spoken. You didn't need to prove your worth. You didn't need to beg for her to recognize what you had to offer. You understood that your value was inherent and non-negotiable. That silence, that stillness, is what starts to eat at her. Over time, she begins to feel the absence of the man who once tried so hard, who showed up no matter what, who fought to understand and to hold the connection together. But now that man has changed. Now he guards his energy with the wisdom of someone who understands its sacredness. And that's when the shift begins. That's when she starts to realize what she lost, not because of the things you said or the things you did, but because you didn't flinch, you didn't react, you didn't need to. In relationships, people often expect reactions, emotional outbursts, desperate gestures, the kind of behavior that keeps the drama and chaos alive. But the man who has learned to respect himself, to value his peace and his energy, knows that there is power in restraint. He doesn't need to chase. He doesn't need to explain himself. And most importantly, he doesn't look back. He understands that when a person doesn't appreciate or recognize your worth, sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away quietly and let them feel the absence. It's not about pride or trying to punish them. It's about self-respect, knowing that your energy is too precious to be spent on someone who takes it for granted. So, if you're watching this and you found yourself being quiet, not out of pride or stubbornness, but out of self-respect, understand this. Your silence is doing far more than you realize. She's starting to feel it. That absence, that void you've left behind, is stirring questions in her heart, questions she never thought she'd ask. She might even start to question her own actions, her own choices, and why you didn't fight for her. But the truth is, you didn't need to. Your silence is the loudest thing you could have said. That absence is a reflection of your growth, your understanding of what is worth fighting for and what isn't. That's the power of a man who doesn't chase, doesn't react, and doesn't look back. It's the power of knowing your worth, the power of stoicism, and the power of remaining steadfast in your own sense of self. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever experienced this shift in a relationship? What did you learn from the quiet moments, the times when you didn't react or chase? And how did it change the dynamics between you and the other person? Sometimes, the greatest lesson lies in what we don't say or do. Number 8, seeing you through others. She's moved on, or at least that's what it looks like on the surface. She's talking to someone new now, laughing, smiling, exchanging words that suggest she's put the past behind her. She tells herself she's moved on, convincing others, and maybe even herself, that everything is fine. Yet, beneath the surface, there's a quiet disquiet she can't name, a subtle emptiness that no amount of new attention or distraction can fill. No matter how hard she tries, no one else can recreate the feeling she had when she was with you. Those new faces might be charming, they might say the right things, and they might check all the boxes on paper, but they don't ground her the way you did. They don't bring the same calm, steady presence that made her feel safe and settled. They try, with compliments, laughter, and flowing conversations. But with every passing day, the difference becomes more noticeable, even if she doesn't fully realize it at first. Slowly, without you even being there, you become the silent standard by which all others are measured. At first, she may tell herself this new guy is perfect, good on paper, attentive, thoughtful, the one who should make her happy. But love doesn't live in checklists, and connection isn't born from bullet points. It grows in the quiet, unscripted moments, the spaces between the noise and distraction. When her phone isn't buzzing, when the crowd fades, when she's left alone with her thoughts, her mind drifts, not because she wants to think of you, but because something she once had is glaringly missing. It's not about looks, status, or who can talk the smoothest or make the grandest gestures. It's about how she felt when she was with you, safe, seen, and settled in a way that didn't require performance or pretense. You never had to try to impress. You simply showed up fully as yourself, calm, centered, and present. You brought peace into the room, not chaos, and it's that peace that haunts her now. As she tries to find that feeling again, she begins to understand something deeper. She isn't just comparing the personalities or qualities of the men she meets, she's comparing presence. Your presence was different. It didn't demand attention or shout for validation. Instead, it commanded respect quietly and authentically, like a steady flame in a noisy world. Every man she meets now exists in the shadow of that presence, whether she acknowledges it or not. Your absence speaks louder than their words ever could, and your stillness echoes more powerfully than their attempts to fill the space you once held. You have become the invisible benchmark, etched not by your words, but by how you made her feel. The irony is profound. What she once overlooked or took for granted is now the very thing she searches for but cannot find. This speaks to a deeper truth about Stoicism and modern masculinity. A Stoic man doesn't chase validation or compete for attention. He doesn't feel the need to explain his value to anyone who couldn't see it the first time. As the ancient Stoic philosopher Epictetus advised, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." And that was exactly what you did. You never had to convince her with grand declarations or dramatic gestures. You simply lived your truth steadily and consistently, without the need for applause or acknowledgement. That quiet strength, that embodied philosophy, is what lingers now in your absence, making it louder than the presence of anyone who has tried to take your place. She may never say it aloud. Pride and circumstance might keep her silent, but deep inside, perhaps in places she won't even admit to herself, she knows you were never just another chapter in her life. You were the turning point, the moment of calm and clarity she didn't recognize until after the page had already turned. In today's modern world, where so much is loud and fleeting, where constant noise competes for attention, an instant gratification clouds deeper connection, your steady presence stands out as something rare and valuable. For men navigating relationships today, the lesson is clear. Embody calm confidence without desperation. Show up authentically and consistently, not performatively. Be present in a way that doesn't demand attention, but naturally commands it through quiet strength. Your true value is not in grand gestures or polished words, but in the peace and security you provide, the kind that may be invisible in the moment, but leaves an indelible mark on the heart. In the end, it's that unshakable presence that she missed, that she can't find anywhere else, and that shapes how she remembers you long after the surface smiles have faded. So, if you find yourself in this space right now, walking away, rebuilding, carrying the weight of memories, understand this. She will miss you, but it won't be in the way you might expect. She won't miss you when you're pleading for her attention, begging for her validation, or trying to prove that you're worth keeping. No, it's in your absence, in your silence, that she will begin to realize what she lost. You've become the man who chose peace over the noise, the man who has made the conscious decision to stop performing for someone who didn't value you. Your decision to move forward, to rebuild and focus on your own growth, will leave her questioning her own choices. She'll begin to miss you when you no longer play the role she once took for granted. If you're standing in the midst of silence right now, keep going. Keep moving forward. Don't look back. Don't chase after those who chose to overlook your worth. Don't lower your voice to beg for attention or seek validation. That's not your path anymore. The path you've chosen is one of self-respect, stoic strength, and unwavering determination. Instead, become the kind of man whose presence is felt even in his absence. Become the man who leaves a lasting impact, not through loud words or dramatic gestures, but through quiet power, through unwavering discipline, calm detachment, and an inner strength that doesn't need to announce itself. If this message resonates with you even a little, take a moment to hit the like button, subscribe, and explore the other recommended videos on your screen. There's much more to discover, much more to help you stay grounded and untouchable in your journey of self-mastery. Until next time, remember, your peace is your strength, and your silence is your most powerful statement. Stay strong, stay grounded, and never forget that you are enough, just as you are.